You remember when Joe Biden was telling people the right to vote is the most sacred American right there is? State election officials are working closely with public health officials to hold safe elections. If you're feeling healthy, not showing symptoms, and not at risk of being exposed, get out there and vote. This was before the Florida primary, before the Illinois primary, before the Arizona primary. He was even going, he still had ads day before, the day of the primary. Get out there and vote. Continue Obama's legacy. CDC at the time was saying, it doesn't matter if you're feeling good. You can have the coronavirus and be asymptomatic. You can have the coronavirus and be asymptomatic. Neera Tanden was telling people. Is the Sanders campaign telling people not to vote on Tuesday? I don't have the clip in front of me. Joe Biden's senior advisor went on CNN and said the CDC says it's safe. Governor of Ohio says it's safe. They essentially told people, go out and vote. We cannot risk our democracy. Elections are sacred. Go out and vote. Even though what they were saying was wrong. Even though the CDC was saying at the time, you can have coronavirus and not have symptoms. You can transmit it, and you might not know you have it and transmit it. 2 Florida poll workers have tested positive since the last elections, and now its supervisor of elections is advising anyone who voted at their locations to get medical attention. I imagine we'll be hearing similar things out of Illinois soon. Let me repeat that. 2 Florida poll workers who were there working the polls on election day. 2 Florida poll workers tested positive, and now supervisor of elections advising people that should be staying home to go get medical attention because they might have contracted it. They might not feel the symptoms yet. Joe Biden urged his voters to go out and vote. Tom Perez urged people to go out and vote. Oh, I'm not going to get involved, he said. Neera Tanden urged people to get out and vote. You know, Michael Tracy and these idiots on Twitter were like, what about Bernie? Bernie didn't tell his voters not to vote. Bernie Sanders literally put out a tweet. It is a personal choice to go out and vote. He basically ended his get out the vote operation. His campaign was not sending get out the vote text messages. His campaign was not doing all the things you would do on election day to get out the vote. Mass text messages, mass emails, shuttling people to the polls if need be, canvassers on the ground. They literally said this is a personal choice, essentially shooting themselves in the foot, essentially saying vote if you want to. I'm not saying that's why he lost that day. Michael Tracy, oh, but Bernie's campaign manager told people go out and vote during a live stream. First of all, to be fair, I didn't see that. I'll give Michael Tracy the benefit of the doubt that Bernie's campaign manager said go out and vote and wash your hands. That was a dumb thing for him to say. Bernie's campaign manager is not Bernie Sanders. Bernie's campaign manager did not go on CNN and say, the CDC says it's safe, which they didn't. Bernie's campaign manager did not go on CNN and say, the Ohio governor says it's safe. No, he didn't. He postponed it, the elections, because it wasn't safe. Bernie Sanders himself, at the end of the debate with Joe Biden, said, I have concerns. Now, you could argue he should have been bolder and said, no, I'm telling my voters not to go out and vote. Should he have said that? Shoulda, coulda, woulda. It's tough as a candidate to basically tell voters, don't go out and vote, and just sink your campaign. But he essentially, by saying it's your choice, basically gave them permission not to vote. And I know Bernie Sanders' campaign advisors, like Brianna Greyjoy, who was basically saying, don't go out and vote. But, you know, people on Twitter that like to just be contrarian because that's their shtick, I'm just going to say the opposite because, like, it gives me retweets and patrons or whatever. Whatever. This false equivalency, Bernie Sanders did not tell people to go out and vote. If you could find that he did, please send it to me. I don't think it's dramatic. If these people die, by the way, the Florida governor, Arizona governor, Illinois governor, it wasn't just the presidential primaries. They had congressional primaries, local elections. If these people die, and in Florida, odds are those poll workers are above the age of 50, whose fault is it? Of course, personal responsibility, they shouldn't have gone out. But they were told, social distancing, don't get too close to anyone, wash your hands, you should be okay. And who were they told that by? Joe Biden, Tom Perez, Florida's governor, Illinois' governor, who, by the way, Illinois' governor, who just happened to endorse Joe Biden the day before that primary. Wonder if that had anything to do with that primary continuing. Illinois' governor, literally the National Guard came into Illinois the next day. So wait a minute. The situation wasn't such an emergency on Tuesday when you allowed the election to go on? When you allowed people to go jeopardize their health? It wasn't dire enough on Tuesday. You could still have the elections. But on Wednesday, it was such an emergency, the National Guard had to come. You know, as a governor, as a leader, you know what your number one priority is? Security. Protecting your people. And Joe Biden, as president, what's the number one job of a president? Protecting the people. Security. Well, of course, the defense budget shouldn't be $750 billion. But theoretically, your number one job is to protect your people against foreign and domestic enemies. I was talking to people on polling day, on election day. There wasn't hand sanitizer. People were cramped up in basements waiting to vote. Not enough poll workers. People waiting online with other people for hours. Tom Perez, if he would have come out and publicly said, we need to postpone this, he himself did not have the power. It's state by state, the Board of Elections, the governors. But if the head of the DNC said it, I think those ducks would have fallen in line. But Tom Perez went on Chris Hayes' show and said, well, Chris, you know, I'm not going to second guess. I'm not going to second guess the leaders in these states. I wonder if he would have second guessed the leaders in those states. I wonder if he would have called for these to be postponed if the roles were reversed and Bernie Sanders was up by over 100 delegates at that point. I just wonder. Hope you enjoyed that last video. Hop on over to statuscoup.com where you can sign up for our email list and become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Membership is how we grow. That's statuscoup.com/join. And remember, join our email list so we can grow the revolution with you. Status Coup.